Hey, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours, where we assemble every day to answer your media and tech-related production questions. Courtney Gooden in Los Angeles, California is our reader today. Courtney, what's our first question?
First question comes in from Brooklyn, New York, and Mike Edwards asks, "Morning, everyone. Is the Apple Airport Express still a usable production piece of hardware in 2025? If yes, what use cases would you recommend?"
Well, I have one of those in a bag somewhere. Craig Kadoki, what say you?
Well, I would say for production, probably not so much. I've got one of the original ones here. I've also got one of the Gen 2 ones. The only thing that I would use, I use them still for a couple of things, but very, very rarely. Just for an access point if I absolutely need one when I go to the cottage or something. The cool thing with these, though, is that it does have both the first and second gen do have wired ports on them, and they have a USB and an audio port on them. So if you need to set up a printer for wireless sharing where you don't actually have a printer that has that built in, it still would be good for that. One of the cool things that they did with these, as with the early Macs around the same time, the 1/8-inch port on it has an optical in the center, so you can actually get full Apple lossless audio digitally out of this from any Mac or iOS device.
Jason Bache.
That's absolutely true. The problem is that it's via AirPlay 1. So if you have AirPlay 1 and AirPlay 2 on the same network, things get a little weird.
The gotcha. Courtney Gooden.
You know what I do? I don't have that particular Airport Express, but what I do with my old 2.4 gigahertz access points is I put them on my network, which is a more sophisticated, 5 gigahertz and 6 gigahertz network, is I put all my Internet of Things, I name it something different SSID, and I put all the LED lights and everything that only works on 2.4 gigahertz on one of those access ports. And that way they never get confused. And some of the newer access ports that use the same SSID for their 2.4 and their 5 gigahertz and 6 gigahertz will not work with the little modules that control LED lights and LED strips. So that way, anything that I want to control with my voice from the A-Lady or the Google Home can then exist only on that 2.4 gigahertz network. And so that's a handy way to have it and still use it in your house. Keep a separate isolated network for that 2.4.
Mike, thanks for the question. Next question.
Nathan Cashin from Oregon City in the United States says Flask is a new video collaboration tool for creators launched just last week on ProductHunt. At first glance, it looks like an entry-level alternative to Frame.io. What are your thoughts? And he has
it's got the URL, though, flask.do. Guy Cochran, do you have some experience with this?
I don't have experience with it yet, but I am going to download it after the show or sign up for the trial version that's $0. It looks like it goes up to about $9 after you sign up. But one of the cool things that I watched in the demo that's unique as opposed to Frame.io is that you can leave video comments. So when you watch the demo here, you could see in the timeline, instead of just leaving a simple regular comment via text, as you watch what he does here, he'll open up his webcam, and then at a certain point in time, he could say, yeah, its intro is too fast. And then that becomes a node that the editor could then watch the video. You can record what's going on your screen. That to me is pretty compelling and something that Adobe should rip off from these guys, because it is a cool feature, because sentiment could be huge. A lot of times people just don't know what kind of language you're really trying to convey if you're just Chris is nodding his head. Come on, Chris, tell me.
No.
Chris, what say you?
I'm going to say 100% against that guy, and here's why. So somebody's going to leave a comment, all right? And they're going to say it verbally, and they're going to bury it in a comment that's longer than what it needs to be. And as an editor, you have to watch that whole comment. You have to dissect it. You have to parse it. You have to figure out what they're trying to say. Yes, speaking is better sometimes than writing, because people don't like to write. People are bad at picking words and formulating sentences. Yes. So sometimes they just want to ramble like I'm doing right now, and somewhere in there, oh, by the way, delete that. Well, I told you to delete it. So I think that's a nightmare. Ultimately, I think that the idea of non-synchronous commenting like this, whereas I post something and then you get around to it when you have the time, the whole workflow of what Frame has created for the industry, it's counterproductive, slow, and awkward. It's bad. It's not the best. It's just bad. And I do this all the time, every day. It's not the way to edit. It's bad. And what somebody needs to do, you know, because of COVID, I've built this whole studio here where I can easily share my screen. I can easily play audio. You get to hear it well. I get to watch you. You get to watch me. I can go, you know, I almost did picture in picture and showed the wrong screen. But somebody needs to make this easier to do, because the best way to edit is communally. You get to share ideas quickly. Somebody says, hey, we should try this. And as the editor, you can respectfully push back, and you don't have to like let somebody go down this big, long diatribe of typing. It's just non-synchronous editing is not the way to do it. I realize everybody does it. And I also realize that I'm going completely against the grain of the industry. But I do this all the time, and I have an opinion, and my opinion is better than somebody who doesn't do it all the time. Period.
I'm actually going to support Chris in this, because of my experiences recently with that audiobook I'm working on.
You're actually going to support me?
I am 100% going to say this because in the audiobook, I'm doing it now. We're doing sessions with multiple actors, and that live interchange in the moment where you hear something and you can correct it right then, not just correct it because I'm in charge, but correct it if you're open to it by listening to 2 or 3 other voices, having a small discussion. If everybody is of the right temperament and respectful and things like that, it's making the project better really fast. It's eliminating all that friction of gathering an idea and communally working on making something better. Again, I can see a lot of reasons that would get into trouble if the personalities are wrong in that session. But I have to admit, it's been an absolute joy working on these kind of projects with other people that I didn't know before we started this project. And I'm getting to really like and enjoy the interchange. Guy?
Yeah, one of the things in
Guy
Final
Rose
Cut
is out. I'll get back to you, Chris. Go ahead, Guy.
One of the things that you could do in Final Cut and other editors is you can loop around current playhead. And so I get what Chris is saying, especially if you have somebody that's sitting right there behind you. In the old-fashioned edit suites, we had, you know, somebody behind us with their snacks and their, you know, marble counter, and they're able to, you know, play it again, Sam, you know, basically letting us reloop. But then they're like, you know, make it a little shorter, make it a little longer. And you could just play around current and just let it loop around. And there's something about them seeing.
Don't get me started around play around. And that's a whole nother topic. But I'll say this. Imagine doing a table read of a script where you just say, hey, look, just set up your webcam and click the button and then read your part of the script and then give us your opinion on it. Now somebody has to sift through all those comments. You need to do some things communally. You need to all kind of be there. And the beauty of editing over Zoom, the way I do, is I can invite the producer, they can invite their clients, they can invite the marketing people. I mean, we can have a whole party in Zoom and everybody gets to watch. That's if somebody wants to make a great product, better than Flask, better than Frame.io. And can we talk about AWS yesterday and killing Frame.io for the world for the day? Contact me. I'll tell you the tool you have to make. I'll explain it to you. It's not what do I call it? Non-synchronous editing. It's a nightmare.
It is interesting. We have new tools. We are working new ways. I've never done anything like I'm doing right now with the book. So we're learning as we go, and I find this very exciting. I think some other people would probably think, no, I don't want to do that. I want to stick with what I'm doing. But we've always found those people who are willing to try something new, and those who just, you know, I've got a thing that works. I want to keep doing it, so please do it the way I want you to do it, period. End of section. Let's move on. It's an interesting time to be in the creative arts right now. Let's go to our next question.
All right. Speaking of, let's move on. Danny Grizzly, I think that's how you pronounce your name, from Longview, Texas. Can the panel explain the merit of 120 hertz video displays? Has there been an upgrade in human biology and the chemical refresh rate of the retina, known as persistence of vision? Or are we getting swept up in the marketing of pointless technical specs?
That's a great debate. Jason Bates, start us out.
Well, it's not either or. Depending upon who you talk to and how wired in your central nervous system is, you can see easily up to 150 frames a second. The benefit of 120 is that it is the only number, or at least the lowest number, that is divisible by 24, 24, 30, and 60. So if you have 120, no matter what, you'll be able to display whatever you get.
And we've lost Bill.
Oh, I'm sorry. Courtney Gooden.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, Bill. The 120, it depends on whether you're talking about display rate or capture rate. Because if it was captured at 120, it makes a big difference than if it was captured at 24, because there's less frame blur when it is captured at a faster frame rate. So there's less temporal distortion and blurriness from things that are moving. And it makes a difference on display rate to people who are gamers, because they have that twitch rate and they think that the higher the refresh rate, that means the game itself can generate those frames at a higher frame rate if that game is being played locally. And so if it's tied to synchronize your monitor to the frame generation of your game, you can react quicker and dodge those bullets, like in bullet time. The other thing that makes a difference on 120 hertz display is if you're shooting it with a camera, although your persistence of vision of your eyes may be melding those individual frames into what looks like a continuous motion, a camera will create artifacts because it's capturing frames at, let's say, 30 frames per second, and it can create artifacts that show up as bars or rolling bars or static bars. And the higher the frame rate, the less likely that those artifacts will exist with the lower frame capture rates of your camera. So it does make a little bit of a difference depending upon what you're using that display for.
Craig Kadoki.
I just wanted to go back to the question about whether this is a change in human biology or not. And the point I'd like to make is that we have been given media, either through an analog or digital source, both audio and visual, for decades, that has conformed to a frame rate or a sample rate that is based on what the minimum was acceptable to deliver. And whether that was 24 frames in film, and that gave the company shooting the ability to use the least amount of film stock to get the duration they needed. But we've always been dealing with the minimums. That doesn't mean that's all we've actually been able to perceive. That's just all we've been handed. And once you're used to watching something that's only in that frame rate, it becomes normal. Same way with resolutions. And it was really funny. We were watching the baseball game last night, and there were highlight reels from the 92, 93 World Series. And we're looking at going, how did people watch that? Like, that was great video then. It was great coverage, good cameras, everything. Watching compared to what we have now, it looks horrible. But it was really great footage then. And it's just, we've learned to understand so much more by being given the better quality. And I think that's a big factor in this. Having a higher frame rate is something we never knew that we needed before, or that we would be able to appreciate. And now we can.
Well said. Chris Fenwick.
I think the frame rates that we became accustomed to were a byproduct of the limitation of the technology that we had available. It was the fastest you could make a camera go would be 24 frames per second, and that made the semblance of motion, and our eyes and motion blur did the rest of it. Excuse me. I think that there was a magic to 24 frames per second, and there's a magic to, in the 60s, 70s, and everything. Everyone wanted their video to look like film. So sorry. We did so much to try and make it more, filmic, whatever. And now we're trying to make our cameras look like reality. I got news for you. I don't want things to look real when I'm watching like a Jason Bourne movie. I need it to not be real because I don't want to see all that, John Wick blood and whatnot in reality in my living room. I want the illusion of film. I want the mystery magic place that's not reality so I can leave reality and go and experience something that's kind of, dreamlike or otherworldly. I prefer the motion blur. When I get a new TV, the first thing I do is I turn off all that high refresh rate BS. It's ridiculous. I don't want everything to look like the evening news or a soap opera. And I think that I get that we have the ability to master technology and do 120 hertz or, 120 frames, whatever. But I literally prefer, give me the motion blur, give me the 24 frames. When I watch a movie, I want to escape reality. I don't want to experience it.
Yeah, but isn't that the justification for the fact that you can set your TV? I mean, if you're a gamer, you want all the refresh rate you can possibly get and all the resolution you could possibly get.
Gamers have other problems, and we're not going to go into that on this show.
Well, I'm just saying they're selling the same panel to somebody who's going to use it for gaming, and then for somebody who's going to watch black and white movies, and somebody who's going to watch Broadway plays or whatever. And so there are products in there, and we have to, unfortunately, makes things more complicated because we've got to go through that setup stage ahead of just bringing it in, plugging it in, turning it on, which is what a lot of people still really want. Courtney?
Yeah, I was going to mention the soap opera effect, which Chris just did mention, and a lot of televisions that have higher refresh rates, like 120 and 240, have a filmmaker mode. It'll even call it that in the menus, which restores if it is a film that's being broadcast and it has that little bit turned on and its metadata. You can set it so that it can then synchronize and go back to 24 frames per second on your actual home display so that you have that suspension of disbelief and it doesn't look like live video and look like a soap opera to you. And it turns off all the interframe interpolation that the chips in every television do, which take that 30-frame video from broadcast and turn it into 120 or 240. Ang Lee created a film back in 2016 called Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. And it was shot, it was like that Lord of the Rings that was shot at 48 frames per second. And this one was shot, I think it's 60 frames per second in 4K. And I saw it projected at the Cinerama Dome in 60 frames per second and 4K. And it was just such a strange thing to see a big film projected on a screen at 60 frames per second. It looked like you were watching a stage play through binoculars, because it looked like you're watching a live thing, but every time it cut, it was very jarring because it was like, oh, somebody just knocked me over the head and woke me up in another scene somewhere.
It was a glitch in space-time.
Your brain doesn't know how to deal with it, and you lose that suspension of disbelief where your brain is going, yeah, I'm watching a movie, I'm getting involved in the story, et cetera, rather than, this is a stage play and what's happening is real time in real life. So that's why I think the higher frequency displays haven't been common. I know Alex likes it, but not everybody does.
It's an interesting thing to talk about. Danny, thank you for the question. It's a good chat about the technology as it continues to advance and where we all fit into it. Let's go to the next question.
From Noonan, Georgia, Tony Mobley asks, is there a way to have a document in Teams where it is live in one area and view only in another area?
Guy Cochran, have you parsed through this?
I did with my AI friends this morning. Luckily, this question was there while I was having my morning routine drink, and I was able to wrap my mind around what it is that he wants to do. It's really the difference between having a edit permissions document and one that's view only. So if you're in the Google world, you know exactly how to do this, but in the Teams world, it sounds like what you want to do is create a folder that has an alias. So in the folder, you'll have an alias, and that folder permission will be view only. So then you give that link to the people that you want just to look at the document, and then your team can still collaborate on the main document that has edit permissions. So really you're talking about two things, and it's really just a permissions issue. So that'd be the way to solve it.
Hey, it sounds like you parsed it and solved it for him, so good job. Next question.
Next one comes in from Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. Zach asks, just saw an article about this device that can take audio from SDI and convert it to Dante. Looks like this is brand new. What are your thoughts? And he has a link there.
And Craig's going to help us out here. Craig?
Embedders that pull in and output from Dante are not new. This one looks like it's a 4K model with full 64 channels of Dante, which looks very interesting, especially at the price point that it's offered. So I guess this is a new item from AJA, and I will definitely be looking more into it.
Next question.
From Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. Paul asks, what do you make of the game plan and infrastructure of the fully automated OnPod Studios?
It's interesting. I pulled that up all there. Courtney, did you take a look, and do you know what OnPod is all about?
I briefly took a look at this. This is their website here, where you can own, I guess they're a turnkey company that comes in, I think, and constructs a podcasting studio for you. And it costs you from $35,000 to $100,000 total investment, and they finance it. I guess it is 80-20 split. So maybe they're doing the financing or doing some kind of part ownership where they can use it. I'm not sure. I haven't gotten into the weeds on the legality of what they're doing, but it looks like they're in the business of building out podcast studios. So if you are a podcaster with a lot of following and you want to up your game a little bit and have a more professional looking studio with, sound isolated rooms and high end equipment, and who knows? I don't know if they handle personnel or not, but I guess they've found a niche in the business world of creating these podcast studios, and we'll see if anyone bites on it.
It's interesting. I was taking a look at their website, and I went to locations, and it looks like they might be Canadian. It says Ottawa, Montreal, and Brassard. Here's what I was just looking at. And so I don't know whether it's one of those kiln-like things where they're remote kind of workplaces that other people can come into to be podcasters there if you don't want to go through the hassle of converting a room in your house or something like that. Maybe that's what they're heading for. I don't know much about it beyond what I just saw, but Paul? No, go ahead.
Oh, it's Courtney. But yeah, I was
Courtney.
Look at it again. It says it's like a one-touch studio. The one-touch is apparently once they set up this studio, you can hit one button and it automatically records, and it has automated cameras.
Well, let's see. If only someone on our panel had been there working on a one-touch studio for self-broadcasting. They would probably know a lot about this kind of thing. Anyway, we don't know much about it beyond that, so explore at your own risk. Next question.
From Tommy Shantz in St. Paul, Minnesota, here in the USA, says, I went to download Claude and ended up with Wispr Flow. Does anyone use this, or should I just delete it?
That's interesting. I had not heard the Wispr spelled WISPR, Wispr Flow. So they must be running out of copyrightable terms or trademarkable terms. I had not heard of it at this point. If this is another large language model, we are in the process of seeing a ton of those out there. And I remember hearing about here's the large term I had for the language model, but inside of that, there were all these others. I think this is the one that had Poe and a few other things. And depending on what kind of response you were getting, a submodule of the overall large language model seemed to be the right place to be. And it seemed very complex to me to target the query type you had with the portion of the model you were currently working with. I kind of dove out of it at that point. Courtney, do you have some more thoughts about Wispr Flow?
I just did a quick search on it, and it's apparently a voice to text. So it's a voice interface maybe for Claude. So you just speak, and it sits on your computer and automatically translates your spoken language into textual language. So voice input for Claude, maybe that's all it is. So
okay.
If you want to interface, if you want to do some programming in Claude and just want to tell it what to do, you don't have to type it.
Oh, there you go. Oh, Guy Cochran.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that this existed. I've been doing a lot of work with Claude, but I've been doing it with Claude Code on the command line. And one of the things that's just been blowing me away, the stuff is moving so fast. But our friend Chirig, who's on, we call ourselves the Cloud Squad, he introduced me to being able to buy a B-Link and then store all your files locally. So I have a 1 terabyte drive on that NVMe, and then Claude Code runs on Ubuntu. But I was just doing this morning where I was coming back from my run, and I had what I thought was a brilliant idea, an epiphany. So I opened up ChatGPT, the voice one. I don't call her Janet. I don't even have a name for it. I just open it up and start talking. And so I was dictating exactly what Wispr does. I didn't know that I could do this with Claude. But the difference with this one, it sounds like it'll store your stuff up in the cloud, whereas what I was just talking about, I'm storing my stuff locally. So I have a 4 gigabyte SQL file that yesterday I was having it reference and pull stuff, and it's so awesome to have big files locally on your hard drive. I mean, I'll show this stuff sometime in after hours. It's just blowing my mind what Chirig showed me with what you could do in the apps that he's made for Zoom Graphics Toolkit, with Companion making buttons on the fly just with voice. Give me 4 buttons, preview row up top and a graphics cut bus down below. It's crazy what you could do with Claude Code if you know how to talk to it. And it sounds like this Wispr Flow with the ability to talk faster than you could type. It says it'll do way fast, 220 words per minute, as opposed to 45 with the average person on a keyboard. So 220, this could be a boon for some of us who just are faster at talking than typing.
Next question.
Next one comes in from Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia. He says, I have a serious problem with dust. Is there a mini vacuum that the panel recommends, or an alternative?
Courtney Gooden.
I just have a dust buster, or one of its mini, a Black & Decker, actually, mini hand vacuum, which I can use. I worry a little bit about vacuums when I'm going over a keyboard. Get one with a soft brush on it so it can brush those cookie crumbs out between the keys so the vacuum can suck them up, because sometimes they get lodged underneath there. So that's the one that I use. I'm a little hesitant about using a vacuum because usually it sucks it up into the storage tank or wherever it's bag or whatever it uses to store the refuse in. So you can retrieve a keycap if you suck one off of the top of the keys. Then you got to worry about that if any of your keycaps are loose, of finishing vacuuming and looking down and looking at a little stub sticking up from where the Q key used to be. So, but I just use an off-the-shelf Black & Decker portable hand vacuum.
Yeah, the other thing I used to keep on my desk a lot was a makeup brush. I got one of my wife's old makeup brushes, and she had some that were really, really soft, and I found that really useful for just knocking dust off from between keys and things like that. But I also have mini vacs that do the same kind of thing, and I support what Courtney was saying about a brush head is very important for that. Jason?
I've used it basically is a makeup brush, but it's a detailer's brush. It's the same thing that a detailer would use to clean little crevices in your car.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. The other thing I use a lot is Q-tips, because for some reason after 6 months of keyboarding, I always get schmutz between the little rows, and I find a Q-tip with some sort of benign little cleaning solution can really help with that. Next question.
Next question comes in from Paul Valthus in Austin, Texas. Can you discuss the versatility and price performance of the newly firmware updated Cineview M7 Pro? For example, quicker status syncing between transmitter and receiver, and mode switching, and now auto-enables Wi-Fi. Here's a link.
Yeah, that's something from Xsoon, it looks like. I know the brand. I've heard about them, but I have not had any experience with the Cineview M7 Pro. I'm not even sure I know what class it is in. Courtney, you just popped up. Did you take a look? Oops, I'm not hearing you.
Sorry, hit the wrong button. I pulled up to look at it, and it's basically a receiver with MIMO Wi-Fi, or 2.4, I guess it's 2.4, maybe it's 5 gigahertz wireless connection to a portable monitor that your director or DP would use. Maybe, I don't know, because of the handles on each side, think it wasn't a focus puller, but a portable monitor for reception, and maybe it does recording. I'm not sure if it does that because I haven't looked into this particular one. It has higher color grade accuracies apparently, and a high bright, fully laminated, low reflection screen. Well, that's handy to have. I don't know what new advances they've done with this latest. It does support 4K input and output. I don't know what the resolution of the actual screen is, although it may accept 4K. It may downscale it to a 1080p panel that's in there, and built-in Wi-Fi for live streaming camera to cloud. So that's interesting. And it says it also boasts some camera control in there, so that maybe you can use the touchscreen there on an app or something that can do camera control and control recording and playback remotely. So looks interesting. Never used it, so I can't vouch for it. And they're proclaiming their high color accuracy. So we'll see with their new firmware.
I was taking a quick look to see if I could see a price on it, whether it's in the moderate zone or something more expensive, but I didn't. I see where to buy and become a dealer, but I don't see a price listed out there somewhere. So I guess it's going to depend. Guy?
Space? No.
Yeah, I have the baby version of this. I don't have this newer one, but I always like to look and see what the pros are using and what's in the rental houses, and I can't really vouch for Axon, even though I sold tens of thousands of dollars. I used to be a dealer for this brand, and so I do have their products. The low end one, this little Cineview SEHE, so you could see it on the far left in this picture, and it's okay. You know, like it's not. There's delay on it, but I haven't used this new one that you're talking about to see what the latency is like and what the image quality is of that monitor. This is the benefit of going to something like NAB New York that's happening, I think it's next week, where you could go and see, is the quality of that monitor versus the small HD monitor that's in a Teradek version that much better? And then Teradek's just been the industry standard, so and small HD has as well. You see those on sets all over the place. So it's one of those it depends questions. Do you really need this, or can you get away with the version that I have in an iPad? Because that's what mine will do. iPad color is pretty darn accurate. I have the new iPad mini, and it's got a nice form factor. And with the Axon cage, so I also have the Axon cage. And so if you put a cage, then you get quarter 20s. And so you got to ask yourself, do you really need these handles? Like what is exactly that you want to do? But going to these trade shows is definitely a thing that's nice to be able to hold and see, or I guess it's just watch YouTube videos and get the virtual experience of somebody that has one.
Don't forget, we are constantly run by your questions. If you want to put questions in, go to officehours.global/join. If you haven't gotten into the system, that'll get you into the Mukana interface front end. A simple process, but really most of the really cool experience of this show can be enhanced greatly by being in our chat. A lot of people discuss the same topics we're talking about. There's a lot of additional information that flows there. So if you want to do it, officehours.global/join. Exciting question next. Let's dive into AWS. Next question.
Okay, this one comes in from a young man out in Emeryville, California, named Chris Fenwick, apparently. And Chris says, AWS, what the heck? Question mark.
Yeah, if you've been off the planet for a while, they had a big... there's all sorts of things going on. So anyway, Chris, do you want to talk into what's your question?
Yeah, I was just curious who had been affected by it. It took us a while to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
And it was, it took down Frame.io, which is what we found out about. But, it does bring up a bigger picture about using somebody else's services as opposed to taking command of your own domain and building your own. Granted, Emory and the Frame.io team wasn't in the position to do that when they started Frame.io, and leaning on AWS probably seemed like a really good idea. And maybe it is, but I don't even know what happened. Does anybody know what happened?
Yeah, there was a data center problem in one particular one. I think it was Northeast 1 or something like that. It had a meltdown of some form. I haven't heard anything about what it was, but it took out a lot of the East Coast stuff. And then because everything's interconnected, Courtney was mentioning in pre-show here that he lost internet service as a kind of a follow-on thing, even though he's far West Coast. The internet is so interconnected that things got dumped and people had a lot of trouble. And it was, I think, one of the reasons we had a two-person show yesterday is some of our people had a little trouble getting their normal internet connectivity and come on. Courtney would have been here yesterday, but for this problem. So it was a real-world problem. Courtney, what was your experience yesterday?
Yeah, my problem is I use the Amazon Echo as my alarm clock. And so, and usually I'll set it in the middle of the night. And I went to set the alarm to wake me up in time to be on the panel. And it said, "I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty thinking right now." And it was
very polite in telling you it wasn't going to respond to your query.
The new Echo Plus or Amazon Alexa Plus, so it's very polite right now, and it's like it's having a brain fade, and it's got, "I'm not really sure why I can't do that." I said, "What's the problem?" And she said, "I'm not really sure why I can't do that right now." So she was.
Oh wow! Your smart assistant had a temporary lobotomy yesterday because of this outage.
It was connected to the internet, but couldn't bring up a lot of the services that were apparently affected. But I think it had something to do with DNS distribution or something, and a lot of. Dave Plummer, there's a good video. He explains everything that happened on his Dave's Garage website. So if you want a deeper dive into what the heck was the cause of it and who was affected, look on YouTube for Dave Plummer's website, and he explains it all.
You know, that is fascinating to me because rather than I'm trying to get on the internet and it's saying you can't connect, this kind of peripheral, Alexa suddenly can't service the data to take care of a small thing like an alarm clock function for client A. That's almost, there's so much removal from the actual, here's what I think's happening, and I don't have to fight it because it's a big server issue in the East. Instead, you're trying to figure out how to get your alarm done. That's interesting to me. Let's go to Craig Kadoki, and then we'll come right back to Chris Fenwick.
Thanks. I was just going to put a point out. The first thing that I heard about it yesterday was actually listening to the news while I was driving somewhere. And they were talking about not just the fact there was an outage, but also that it affected a bunch of the news distribution through Associated Press and stuff. So I realized that it had a personal effect on a lot of people directly and with some businesses. But no one, other than what I heard yesterday morning, I haven't heard anybody talking about the impacts of the news and the financial impacts of what happened.
Yeah, interesting. Chris, come back in.
What's interesting, Courtney, about your thing that it wouldn't let you set the alarm is that it had a fail-safe. It had a plan for when it was broken, that it could give you a prompt, which makes you realize is like they knew this was a possibility that, what does happen when the whole internet goes down. So they're like thinking that far ahead. It is interesting. And I saw another story about there's a I can't remember what it is. It's called Sleep 8 or 8 Sleep or something. It's like a fancy Bluetooth mattress or noise machine or something. And like people were not able to use their product to sleep because the internet's down. We're way too connected to the internet. This is bad.
Yeah, that's that whole Internet of Things idea where your coffee doesn't get brewed because of something that happened in the northeast of the United States with a lookup table. That's a weird set of circumstances. Well, we're not going to solve it, but it's interesting to talk about, Chris. Thanks for bringing it up. We had some chats about it yesterday because I think it affected our show a little bit, but we made it through. So next question.
All right, next question comes in from Jack Cannon in Phoenix, Arizona. How are people finding the DJI Ronin 4D? About to add either another FX6 or a Ronin 4D to the pack. We do a fair amount of outdoor events with off-roading.
Jason Bache, dive in.
So I've never taken it off-roading. I'm going to start there, but did have a chance to play around with it at the most recent NAB. If there's a lot of dirt involved, I'm not sure about how well these brushless motors can be cleaned. I'm just going to start by saying that. That said, like just on pure performance, it is an incredibly fun and cool thing to play around with.
Nice. Guy Cochran.
Yeah, we use the 6K version on live events, and I love the look, even though it doesn't match really our cameras. So we use UE150s and CX350 as the manned camera. If you're in that Sony ecosphere, you can, now they're giving away the raw version of the codec. Previously, we paid $1,000 for it, so now you don't even have to pay for that. So maybe you can get these to match. It depends on if you're trying to do this live or if you're trying to do this for post, because that codec does matter. But the look of a Sony and just, the FX6, I know you just shot a documentary with that camera because I've seen some of your other posts. But one of the interesting things that you should really look at before you make a decision is I put a link in Mukana to the private Facebook group that has 7,000 DJI Ronin members. And in there, people are saying they're selling their DJI Ronins because there's some kind of China thing where they're talking about DJI backing out of the U.S. market. So there's like 50 people in this group all saying like, I just sold mine, I sold mine. So I put a link. You go read through those 50 posts or comments on that thread because it's interesting what people are saying that they're doing. And some are recommending if you still have to do this, get a DJI RS4 or something like that with the FX6. And that way you can use the camera still solo and then you handheld or whatever kind of mounting solution you want, Steadicam, that kind of thing, Fig rig type of thing. But yeah, read through these comments because they are enlightening.
Next, Courtney Gooden. Courtney.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that politics gets involved with great products because of fear and loathing. I think, the nice thing about the 4D is other than the fact that it may be disabled recently, in the future for fear of things from China, I think it's great besides being just a gimbal, a handheld gimbal that gives you great smooth shots, Steadicam-like shots, especially taking out the vertical bump that most other gimbals don't get rid of. It can be used also as a hothead. In other words, you can mount it up on a crane unmanned, 30 feet up in the air and use it like a PTZ, as well as smoothing out all of your imagery. You can also operate it remotely. So it has two uses, and there's a lot of television series that are now using it as a primary camera. So I think they think enough of the camera itself to be used in standard broadcast dramatic work these days. So it has a good following, and I think a lot of people are going to miss it if it suddenly becomes bricked because of some political tensions in the world,
Next question.
Andy Kokendorfer from Viera, Florida asks, can you suggest any private network service to improve Zoom performance, outbound latency, jitter, etc., when using hotel networks in a ballroom? Thanks.
Oh, a hotel Wi-Fi or hotel internet service. Jason Beish, thoughts?
So my immediate answer, because I think I know what you're after, is no. And the answer, and the reason is that if you have a bandwidth constraint, let's say it's just the last 1/10 of a mile, you are right close to a super fast bandwidth factory, right? It's not going to matter. It won't matter one iota. You still have that little pinch of the last little bit of space. Your best bet is to find another way out of there that has nothing at all to do with the hotel.
Yeah, and having worked in hotel ballrooms a lot, you never know whether the back-end tech team is really good or whether they built it out when they built it out and nobody has taken a look at it since then, and it may be 8 years old and it may be objectively horrible, and you still have to use it because that's all you've got in there unless you can figure out a way to get around it. Courtney Gooden?
Yeah, and dealing with a private network service, unless they bring in their own access points, isn't going to help you as long as you're using the hotels, if you're using the hotel's access points. One thing to look for is check with the IP department of the hotel because they may offer private business access points in their ballroom for high-speed connection. You have to pay through the nose for it, but it takes you off of the guest available Wi-Fi so that you're not in the same crowded space, and it may be on a higher frequency that is reserved, like Wi-Fi 7 up in the 6 gigahertz range, so that and they may have more robust access points planted around the ballroom for things like when they're hosting a convention or something where you're going to have booths and you're going to sell Wi-Fi connection, internet connections to the individual booth members and charge them tons of money.
Yeah, we used to run into that a lot. What? You want $25 tonight for Wi-Fi high speed? Chris Fenwick.
Yeah, I think we paid considerably more than $25. But I was doing a job once at the Aria in Vegas for a certain Bavarian motor company. And it was one of the fastest internet connections I've ever seen, like almost anywhere. Although not like Guy's house. But it was super fast. They paid a whole lot extra. And it was even via Wi-Fi. It was super fast. So it's worth asking. Get your checkbook out.
Yeah, my $25 comment was about what I paid as a guest in a hotel for an evening of very mediocre Wi-Fi service when I was traveling a lot early in my career. Next question.
Next one comes in from Jason Beish here on the panel and in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Looks like Blackmagic Design updated their streaming hardware offering. I could hear the shudders coming from the Philippines. So.
I wonder if that's a connection, a call out to our audio A1. Jason Beish, what do you think about it?
Oh, it most certainly is. So, okay, it's not actually an update on the hardware offering, but it looks like they are adding HDR metadata support, whatever that means, and 16 channels of audio support. So, worth poking around with. I do have a couple of these that I haven't used for quite some time for obvious reasons. They don't work nearly as well as the web presenter that I adored. But just the prospect of being able to send 16 channels of audio is somewhat alluring.
Yeah, that's an interesting upgrade. I'll have to look into that myself. Next question.
Next one comes in from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. Paul says, it seems like Apple liked making the film so much, it bought the rights to show the whole F1 championship for 5 years in a $750 million deal. What does this mean to you?
If you're an F1 fan, it means something, I'm sure. Craig Kadoki, are you in that category?
I certainly am. One of the things that it means to me is that hopefully Formula One will be part of Apple TV now, as opposed to me paying for a separate app, although the F1 TV app is great. Pardon me. But I just want to point out a couple of quick things about it. Apple's been working on this for a long time. This wasn't something they just decided after making the movie or having a hand in the movie. But that price is per $150 per year to get the 750, and that's up from $90 million per year that ESPN was previous contract was. So they're obviously thinking that there's money to be earned in this and development for growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Penwick?
I can tell you this little insider info. Back in the old days when Apple used to do their announcements from the Moscone Center, this is obviously when Steve was still around, there was a special area on the road that was all cordoned off where all the execs would come in during the rehearsal week because, it'd take a week to put on an Apple keynote. And it was where all the execs would park their amazingly beautiful supercars, like just a whole smattering of oh, I'd like to drive that. So I will tell you this, Apple people like their cars.
Ah, the Ferraris and Bugattis and whatever.
The Ferraris were the trashy ones.
To me, it's been really interesting to watch Apple because when they first started producing content, it was horrible. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it directly. You had that era of they're putting on comedians in cars doing coffee and you're going, well, this is just a ripoff of Jerry Seinfeld. There's nothing here. And I tried to watch some of those shows. They were awful. But boy, did they teach me something about just get something working. Just get a pipeline built and working. You can always iterate and improve it. And I don't think it was until Coda, which was the first Apple production I saw, that I really respected and said, well, this is a really good piece of content. And now we're at Formula One, and, you know, they're sponsoring an amazing array. It reminds me that you're going to be pretty basic or lousy when you start out. You're never going to get the best thing you've ever done the first time you try to do it. But it's that process of constant refinement and iteration that leads you to being good at what you do. And it's a lesson I'm not going to soon forget. Next question.
All right, next question comes in from Danny Grisley in Longview, Texas. Follow up on the DJI 4D discussion. Is the DJI Lidar autofocus yesterday's fad, or seriously useful to leave rigged full time on a lightweight cine camera?
And Courtney Gooden, what do you think?
Well, I think it depends. And I'm not sure with its Lidar autofocus whether it has the smarts to do face detection and automatically use the Lidar to find the face in the scene. Usually in dramatic stuff, you want a focus assistant, a first assistant, to be in charge of the focus, to be able to shift focus from one character to another based on the drama that's happening in the scene. So automated focus is not really great unless you're doing a documentary and it's a one-man crew and you don't have anyone to pull focus for you. Then it could come in handy. And I'm not sure. I've never tried it. Don't have a 4D. Don't have the $12,000 to plop down for one. So I'm not sure how smart its LiDAR focus is and whether you can give it targets to focus on, and it will handle those targets as you're moving and they are moving throughout a scene. So I think it can come in handy, and LiDAR is a lot better than just using multi-area contrast-based focus.
Don't forget, if you like and value what we do here, there are a few ways you can help us. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's the simplest thing. Costs you nothing, and we just appreciate it. You can volunteer at officehours.global volunteer. That's officehours.global/volunteer. You become a part of the team that makes all this possible every day. Or if you'd prefer, you can simply make a donation if you'd like to. We are a 501c3. That happens at officehours.global/donate. Next question.
Next one comes in from north of the border in Connaught, British Columbia. Roz Humphreys asked, has anybody else used Soundly? I've started using it and can open a WAV file into it and then directly into Final Cut Pro. Anybody else played with this and any other uses? And she has a link.
Yeah, I've never actually heard about it. I haven't. I use Final Cut almost every day. But Jason, have you got experience?
No, I
with
haven't. But have I missed something? Like, can you not just drop a WAV file directly into Final Cut? Like, I'm pretty sure I've done that in the past. I mean, like, pretty much right onto a timeline. Fenwick does this a lot, and he's nodding his head. It does that. I'm wondering if there's something in Soundly that that the questioner is getting, and then it's easy to go to the next level, or maybe I'm misrepresenting that. I don't really understand the question as asked, other than no, I haven't used Soundly. But you know, a WAV file directly into the timeline, yeah, it can do that natively.
Craig Kadoki?
Yeah, I just was going to throw in that Roz put in the chat about that it's for searching, and you can copy and just part of the WAV file. So it looks like it's a way to audition the sound effects easily and then just take a part of what you want and drop that directly in rather than saving out the file, editing that part, and either in Final Cut or whatever, or dropping it in afterwards.
Okay.
The other thing that I looked at really quickly with this is that they have a couple of interesting options for pricing, which is they've got a free tier for trial, I guess, a $15 a month, but they also have a $10 for 24-hour option for people who are doing a quick project or something, which is just, I point that out only because I find it interesting when companies come up with different licensing or use pricing models that make it easy for people to do small projects, rather than having to buy a full month or a full year.
Chris Fenwick.
Yeah, it seems like this is more of a library than a file management tool. I think you're buying into a sound library.
Okay. Courtney Gooden?
Yeah, they're boasting, it's a sound effects library It's an app that sits on your computer and it connects to their sound effects library, which is online. And it also integrates your local sound effects into the search of the stuff that they are hosting in the cloud. And then it lets you, kind of trim and then drag and drop into whatever editing platform that you're working on. So that's I think, what they're pitching. Your local files helps you organize your local sound effects files and integrates those sound effects with their cloud-based library.
Hey, does anybody feel the same way I do, that I'm starting to wonder whether search engines and other things, whether I'm getting a lot of different portals into the same databases? I've been thinking that for a while about sound effects. How many actual unique sound effects libraries are there? There are probably quite a few, but when I go to search on a thing, the one I probably use more than anything else is Sound Dogs, because they have a lot of simple little tiny cues that are really easy to get to. They're really well indexed. They've been around for a long time. I'm used to their interface.
I like Sound Dogs.
Yeah, there's so many other sound effects now, portals and things. And is everybody doing their own unique recording, or are they all going? Do I have 14 paths to the same thing?
Of data and all selling it from different places. I bet you could buy the same Wilhelm scream from everywhere.
Well, I'm sure you can find that everywhere. But no, I wonder if, how do I find another set of Chihuahua barks, if that's what I need? How do I know where they're sourcing it from? Or am I spending time looking in 6 different services and only getting the same sounds?
Well, you got to remember, Bill, that we are now in the world of AI. And I'm wondering now, if you looked at Sora 2 or Veo 3.1, that now all generate lip sync and sound effects and music for these videos. How long will it be before the sound effects library is a thing of the past and you just connect to an AI sound effects assistant? It looks at the scene, it spots what's happening in the scene, analyzes it, and generates the sound effects because it's ingested all these, it bought a copy of Sound Dogs and Soundly and all the other sound effects libraries that are online, and generates the appropriate sound for whatever's happening on screen, does instant Foley based on what it recognizes in the frame. I don't think that's very far away. So I think
you're probably right.
The days are numbered on the sound effects library and spotting and laying in sound effects and sound sweetening and sound design. I think basic sound design could be taken over by an AI client today if needed.
That's interesting, and it's very... I don't know how to feel about it. Part of me says it will make my job a whole lot easier, and I don't have to sit there going, okay, I listened to 7 glisses when the witch casts her spell. I want a signature sound for that. I've listened to glitches for a half an hour, and I think I want to take the first part of this one and the second part of that one and add a little more reverb, and I think that's the sound I'm looking for. But you're right, Courtney. How long until I just say all of that into a generative AI model and get something that works for me? Chris Fenwick, you wanted to get back in?
Yeah, all I can say is, AI, please replace my job. I want to retire.
It's about time for that. Hey, thank you, everybody, for paying attention to us today. We really appreciate your coming in and supporting Office Hours. I think I can speak for everybody that we wouldn't be here doing this if we didn't enjoy doing it. It's a wonderful way, and largely because of your questions. So thank you to everybody who's watching it, to our audience, to our producers, as we call you, because you really do drive the show. So thank you for all of your questions. To the panelists, our amazing group of people who assemble every day and add their expertise from decades of in the trenches, get it done, no excuses work. We appreciate you deeply. And to our final constituency, that is the amazing tech crew behind the scenes who put this show together, help us all, are in our ears, making sure we don't make mistakes, or if we do them, we apologize for them as quickly as possible. Thank you all in the back end. We really, truly appreciate your effort. That takes us up to the Tlaloc Traversal today. That is the amount of distance you would have had to travel to get to these people and get these answers. 20,000 miles. 33,000 kilometers at 162 million bananas for sale. Tomorrow's audio day, so if you have audio questions, sneak in tomorrow, and if not, we'll see you the next time you're here. Thanks for watching.
Beautiful.
Good cue. Was that you,
Well
Chris?
done.
Who tossed Wilhelm into the mix?
I think it was Mickey.
It is the first sound you hear in my audiobook. I had to process it a little, but there's a falling body, and I thought, well, what am I going to use?
Doppler effect.
The Wilhelm. It is in public domain now, isn't it?
If not, it should be. I
It's
think it
the
was from
first
the 30s.
viral
wasn't
sound effect.
it? It's been out there forever.
It's the Rickroll of Foley, okay?
It is. Thanks, everybody. It was a joy being with you today.
All righty. Let's hope the ABS holds up tomorrow.
There is a whole long lineage document on the internet about the Wilhelm scream. Fun to read.
Hey, Bill.
Have a great day.